5 Sports Show. I'm Cam Murray, joined by Zach Anderson.
Yep.
And you guys already know what week it is. It's the Backyard Brawl week. The
we don't
biggest,
have to tell you that.
No, they don't have to know. All the fans watching, you guys
Yeah.
know this is the biggest week, most important game of the West Virginia football season.
Yeah.
And we come off last week's tough loss. 17-10 loss to Ohio down in Athens. We were there.
Yeah.
You know, if you saw the live reaction we had, the post-game reaction, we were there. It was, you know, all around, just the only word to describe that, the game, the offensive flow was just kind of poor and tough in some spots. We
Yeah.
didn't see a lot of progression in the offense. Obviously, the big caveat, many of the star players, or two of the star players, Jaheim White and Jaden Bray, are now out after that game, and that sort of was the turning point, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Jaheim White goes out, your leading rusher, pretty much the heartbeat of your offense, goes out and just takes the whole offense out with him. But
the offense just completely changes at that point.
Oh.
You lose 2 of your star players. I mean, Coach Rodriguez mentioned it during his press conference after the game and on Tuesday about how that just changes the game plan. And then you have to have new guys who don't know the system as well. I mean, all of them are still learning the system, but guys that don't know the system as well have to come in. So it's a challenge.
It is a challenge. So we're going to bring you more in depth in the whole rivalry game, of course, with Pitt. We're going to talk about some of the injuries and some of the guys that will be stepping up. We'll also have a quick look at the history of this matchup going for the last 5 or 6 years in the matchup. We'll go over your comments from our recent video. And we'll also be breaking down some high school football. But we want to begin with just the week in general leading up to the Backyard Brawl. Zach, you've been a fan of this team for your whole life, pretty much. Your whole life. And, you know,
pretty much,
this week feels different. Covering this team feels different this week. Hearing the press conferences feels different. So from your perspective, coming off that loss, what are your thoughts? Put your fan hat on for a second now. What are your thoughts coming into this game?
Yeah, if I can, I'll put my fan hat on just for a moment because as a West Virginia native, a West Virginia football fan, my entire life, growing up watching the Mountaineers play Pitt, it's just tradition. It's one of the best rivalries, if not the best. I might be a little biased there saying that, Cam, but if not one of the best rivalries in college football. So having this game back again is awesome, of course. It's been going since 2022 here pretty consistently now. We are going to be missing out on it, unfortunately. And as a fan, from my perspective as a journalist and as a fan as well, it's unfortunate that this game is going away because, like I said, having this rivalry makes college football better, makes West Virginia better. So not having it is certainly going to be a bad thing. And I know that Athletic Director Ren Baker and Rich Rodriguez want to continue the game. Of course, they won't be able to do that until 2029 due to scheduling conflicts. But getting this Backyard Brawl back to Morgantown, having this series going on the last 3 or 4 years has been a great thing, and I want to see it continue. And I'm excited for this one again, as well as a fan here. I'm excited. Now, from an objective perspective, Cam, West Virginia has a lot going against them going into this game. So
they do.
We'll talk about all that, of course, but lots of challenges. But overall, the energy is exciting. The fan base is obviously excited. They're pumped up, ready to go for this one. I'm sure everyone out there watching this right now, either you've got a ticket to the game or you're going to be watching on TV because this one is the game for the year, as you mentioned. This one is the one that matters the most. Now,
kind of going into the summer, even before the season, I think a lot of us assumed West Virginia would enter this game 2-0. We know Pitt is 2-0. They won against Duquesne and Central Michigan. They come in 2-0, West Virginia 1-1. The loss to Ohio does take the air out of the sails of this team. And all the loss in general is the loss, but more of the injuries, like you mentioned. Jaheim White, I mean, one of the best, if not the best, running back in the Big 12 coming into this season. And you lose him, like you're seeing, unfortunately, the picture of him on crutches, behind us.
Yeah, they're behind us.
It was, and that was a dirty hit, dirty play. That was a terrible play.
Let's set the record straight.
Yes.
There were multiple penalties on that play.
Yes.
That whenever he got tackled, because I mean, you could argue there was a face mask there, but there was definitely a horse collar, maybe even a hip drop tackle, which the NFL recently banned those. So a couple of illegal things that happened during that hit, and it led to a season-ending injury, and that's super unfortunate. I don't know how else to say it.
And we'll talk about the history of the matchups a little bit later in this episode, but we want to talk about who will be kind of replacing or looking to take some of that brunt of the lion's share of the carries when Jaheim White's out. We look at Clay Ash. We look at Sincere Bowers. Also mentioned is Dior Hubbard. These are the guys on the depth chart as of right now.
Those are all guys that Coach Rodriguez mentioned that he wanted to see get some carries. So Dior Hubbard, of course, is a freshman. So he has not seen the field yet this year, Cam, but certainly some room for opportunities for him because Clay Ash, I mean, on the ground, him and Sincere Bowers didn't do great against Ohio. I don't want to steal your stat here, but 5 carries for 1 yard is what they had. So not really an impressive performance by them. You're going to need guys to step up. Somebody, hopefully, makes their name there in that group.
I feel you, and you kind of mentioned it a little bit, but in that game when Jaheim White goes down, 5 carries, Sincere Bowers had 1 carry for -1 yards.
Yeah.
Clay Ash had 4 carries for 2 yards. Clay Ash did have some production in the passing game, though, with 4 catches for 20 yards. But, that wasn't the same production we saw against Robert Morris. These guys played well against Robert Morris. When they were in the game, they both played very well.
Especially Bowers.
Bowers had a touchdown. But it's just going to come down to the offensive line, which is an overarching kind of issue, whatever you want to call it. Thing about this team is the offensive line is still in a work in progress, developing. Nico Marchiol in the pocket in the last game against Ohio, the offensive line was having trouble stopping that pass rush at multiple times. He got sacked 3 or 4 times against Ohio. Got sacked once against Robert Morris. We kind of misnomer, just a little first game.
Whatever.
But those matter. Those matter when you're playing a quality opponent like Pitt is. Pitt's coming into this game as a quality opponent. Power 4 opponent. Obviously, it's a rivalry game, so you can't, the spread is the spread. We're not going to get into that. But this is, it could go either way. But looking at what West Virginia has to work with coming into this matchup, they have a lot working against them, as you mentioned. One of those things that we can kind of talk about as well is the quarterback situation. We're heading into week 3, and in the press conferences, Rich Rodriguez is still on the same path he was kind of going into fall camp. Into fall camp, going into week 1. Adamant he's not naming his starting quarterback. Still saying that there's multiple guys in the mix. From your perspective, how do you boil that down? There are multiple quarterbacks listed on this roster which could be playing. We saw Nico take the brunt of the work, obviously, but what's your kind of perspective on this whole quarterback situation right now?
The quarterback situation is murky, to say the least. I mean, of course, Nico is the returner, the guy that has been at West Virginia the most, and you bring in guys like Scotty Fox, the freshman, and you have transfers in Max Brown from Charlotte and transferred Jalen Henderson from Texas A&M. And we've talked about them all throughout this show in the first couple weeks of the season. Now you're going to need one of those guys to maybe step up. I mean, if Nico's not getting the job done, Coach Rodriguez has made it very clear in the depth chart and the press conferences that he wants to give other guys a chance if it means that West Virginia will win football games. So I don't think he'll be afraid to try out other options. In my perspective, I think you run with Nico for a little bit longer. I mean, first road game of the season, I'm not trying to make excuses for him here, but the offensive line didn't play well either. You mentioned it just a moment ago about how the offensive line struggled. If you went on social media this past week, Cam,
they're killing the offensive line.
People on social media are really, honing on the offensive line struggles. Rodriguez said he thought their assignments were well. Like, they did their assignments well, but they just weren't getting enough push, is what he said. And push is what you need to run the ball. Obviously, West Virginia didn't run the ball well either. So I think that there's a lot working against them in terms of the offensive line. You need that group to grow coming into this game. You need them to take a big step. It's only 6 days removed. Once the game starts, I should say. It'll only be 7 days removed, a week removed from that game. You need that group to grow a lot in just 7 days. You need to find something there, something that makes this group play a little better, especially in the offensive line. And that will, of course, in turn, help the quarterback.
Yeah, like you said, another thing that helps the quarterback is the run game, helping him out in that situation. We know the offense that Rich Rodriguez and the Mountaineers like to run. It's a little bit of, a fake out here. What, are they going to run? Are they going to pass? And that kind of RPO thing we've been seeing a lot. But what the whole point is, you need a good running game so that defenses are afraid of that running game.
Yeah, you got to keep them honest with the run game. And you don't have that run game, you can't do that.
If you have Jaheim White back there and he's obviously the bell cow back, the best back they have right now, well, they're gonna take a lot of what he's doing and try to figure it out. But you lose that, and who's to say that West Virginia is going to have? How many guys we're going to see out there? When are we going to? Is it going to be Clay Ash and Sincere Bowers coming in, changing possessions, or is he going to go with the same thing he kind of said in fall camp, where he's not afraid to pull guys in and out, ride the hot hand?
Yeah.
We know, we heard Rich Rodriguez talk about that for not just the running backs, not just the quarterbacks, but every position.
Every position across the board.
Every position is kind of fighting in that same way.
Yeah.
Now, along the same lines of the injuries, along the same lines of Jaheim White not being able to play, Jaden Bray not being able to play, Reed Carrico was listed as day-to-day. That's what they said in the press conference on Tuesday. One interesting sort of thing going into this game is Jamori Robinson. Okay.
Yeah.
So we talked all about the injunction, about his ineligibility, then his eligibility, and now,
then ineligibility.
Yeah, it's like
we keep going back and forth.
We're hearing he's eligible, but not eligible for this week. We thought he'd be eligible. That was what Rich Rodriguez said in the press conference. We had thought he'd be eligible to play in this backyard brawl. Turns out he might not. He's not listed on the depth chart, which we kind of will talk. It's more of a formality at this point. It's not.
It is
not set in stone by any means.
The depth chart kind of feels like it's turned into somewhat of a joke. I mean, I don't want to discredit Rich Rodriguez in this sense, but the depth chart just seems like it gets filled out just because he has to. I mean, a lot of the things don't make sense. I'm sure people that are on social media have seen posts about it. The depth chart is kind of random. I mean, you have a guy, KK Tonru, who started last week and one of the best players on the defense last week, and now he's listed as a second stringer in that group.
Yeah.
Of course, you have the running back situation, the quarterback situation, where you have all oars across every quarterback. So the depth chart's interesting for sure.
I will say it's funny. I listened to the Narduzzi press conference today, and he's talking about the rivalry, talking about. Honestly, it was a very long introduction in that press conference. It was very long until he got to the questions. But when he did get to West Virginia, he talked about things in absolutes. Nico Marchiol is the starter. Cam Vaughn is their best receiver. Jaheim White is out. So
I feel like Rich Rodriguez does the exact opposite.
Yes.
He does not talk in absolutes. He talks in maybes and if and whens and mights.
So he was very, and Pat Narduzzi in his press conference nailed it and said Nico Marchiol is the starter. He talked a little bit about what he's good at, what he's noticing in film, talks about some of the guys on offense as well, especially Cam Vaughn, which we're going to get into more because his role is going to obviously expand more with Jaden Bray going out. And his role has already been a really good role for whoever's the quarterback of this team.
He's making the plays.
He's the one making the plays, and he did. Now, there's a bit controversial, that catch that was ruled not a catch. Things like that happen. I don't think that was a catch. I think, I'm one to say, it's easy for me to say with the camera in my hand when I look back and, it was a catch, but it was kind of out of bounds. I don't want to get into all that, but, I mean, he's the best receiver. He's the best offensive player aside from the quarterbacks in the team, Cam Vaughn. I'm just curious to see how Pitt defensively attacks West Virginia, because right now they don't have obviously the same horses in the back that they did in the last game coming into Ohio.
Yeah.
Does Pitt focus all their attention and make West Virginia beat them with guys who are less experienced and less proven? If they just decide we're going to shut Cam Vaughn down, well, how do the other guys step up? That's my main question. The guys, if Pitt's idea of stopping West Virginia is neutralizing their passing attack, understanding the running game might not be as strong, how does West Virginia respond? And on the flip side, Pitt's offense looked great in the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, they did.
So how does Zach Alley's defense, respond to that? A lot of things coming to a head for this rivalry matchup. So from your perspective, what is the most important thing for West Virginia coming into this game? Is it having an answer to Pitt's defense with a great offensive attack, or are they coming into this game thinking, we understand our shortcomings on offense, we need to defend Pitt, and we need to neutralize their attack and help us out?
That is an interesting point. That's a good question, because honestly, I think it has to be a little bit of both there. You have to, have the strategies, know where you struggle, but also be able to take strides on offense and learn where you can. Now, I do want to go back to Jamori Robinson just for a second, Cam, because you mentioned him, and that's got to be something that's eating at the offensive coordinators for Pitt and head coach Pat Narduzzi, because they don't know if that guy's going to play, and he will be a difference maker if he plays.
Oh, yes.
He'll be disruptive on that defensive line. He's a guy that will make plays. So they got to be worried about him to see if he's going to play. I'm sure they're following all the WVU media closely, trying to figure out what's happening with him. They said he was eligible, then ineligible. Of course, a transfer from UTSA. He won the American Defensive Player of the Year, I believe, last year.
He had 10.5 sacks or something. 10.5 sacks.
I think 10.5 is right. So just an impressive player, someone that West Virginia is going to need on defense. Of course, the defense was the better unit. We can both agree on that against Ohio. But certainly going to need him to play against Pitt, and that's a lot of uncertainty there. Now, back to your original question, though, I do want to talk about that because I think the more important thing, of course you want both, like I said at the beginning of this, but the most important thing is to see the offense take a step forward. I think you need to see some more production from that group. You get 600 yards in your first game, albeit against an FCS opponent. Then you're down to 250 total yards and 17 points. Just wasn't impressive overall. I'm sure we all can agree on that. So you need to see the offense take a step forward against a Power 4 opponent. That's the bottom line for me.
And you're right. I mean, 250 total yards, 2 for 13 on third down conversion, third down attempts.
Yeah, that's just abysmal.
You're not gonna win many games with that. Yeah. But talking kind of in the history of this matchup, we'll go more on the Backyard Brawl. But we talked a little bit about before this podcast, Rich Rodriguez's overall record against Pitt in his first tenure. And that was 4-3, correct?
4-3 is what we calculated from 2001, whenever you started coaching, from 2007, of course. Everybody remembers the 2007 Pitt game. So 6 years there, went 4-3 against Pitt.
So 4-3 in his first tenure. And then now we'll have a look at some of the most recent games for the Backyard Brawl. And obviously, last season, 38-34 loss.
That was a crushing one.
That was that was a collapse.
Yeah.
No other way around it.
That's true.
Defensive collapse. But I will say, that was the first Backyard Brawl I went to, and I will just tell you this right now: it's going to be. I'm hoping for another electric game on Saturday. It's going to be regardless.
You weren't there in 2023, were you?
No, I wasn't. The 2024 in Acrisure was my first one, and when they flew. I'm hoping for a flyover. I'm hoping for a flyover.
I think you can bet on that.
Yeah, I think that flyover was awesome. But into the game, the defense let them down. Yeah, it was pretty simple. Pretty simply put.
True.
The defense just did not look great, and that was kind of the first kind of signs that we saw that maybe Jordan Leslie's defense wasn't working last year, and it just kind of snowballed from there last season.
Definitely.
But 2023, West Virginia wins 17-6 in Morgantown, and what can you say about that game, Zach? Were you covering that game?
I was at that game as a student, and West Virginia's offense wasn't quite there. Actually, Garrett Green, the former quarterback for West Virginia, he actually got injured during that game. At the beginning of that game, Nico Markiel played the majority of that game. He was a very young player at that time. He played a majority of that game. West Virginia held on. It was 17-6 final score. It was a low-scoring one. And that was the last win for West Virginia in this series before their win in 2011, I should say, because that was the last time they played at home whenever the series took a 10-year break about there. So if you look back at that graphic there with all the games, West Virginia actually won 4 out of these 6 games you see here. They went on a tear there in 2011 to 2009, won 3 straight, and then won the game in 2023. So 4-2 record here out of this group.
Now, going back to the 2023 Backyard Brawl, the fact that Nico Markiel does have experience in a rivalry game, especially this type of magnitude, that does bode well for West Virginia. If we were going into this game with West Virginia had a quarterback that had never played in the Backyard Brawl, never experienced the Backyard Brawl, maybe there's more, obviously more chance of is this team prepared? Is they going to know what to expect? Especially with 70 new players coming into the team.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of guys who have played in Backyard Brawls in general, or maybe they played in some rivalry games here and there, but the Backyard Brawl, like you said, it's just different.
It's a different game.
On the same level, I would say on the same level, Michigan, Ohio State, Backyard Brawl, and then, there's always probably another Texas, Oklahoma. Is that still a big one?
That's still
River?
A big one. Yeah, Red River's probably one of the bigger ones.
But yeah, I think this one's obviously big for multiple reasons. But we're going to go into a little bit of kind of what people had said after the Ohio loss. We have some comments here. Now, we want people to understand, whether you're listening to this on Spotify, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you're getting your podcasts, please comment below every episode. We'll be reading all the comments. I sure do.
We definitely read all the comments.
We take a look. We sometimes have some laughs. So this was after the Ohio loss, and we want to show you guys some of the comments that we saw after that loss. This is from the Facebook post, and we'll have a look here. So this was the post. This was actually our instant reaction in reaction to that video. So from Thomas Burner, and I paused saying the last name because I don't know if this means Thomas, this is his burner account, or it's Thomas Burner, in which case, Mr. Burner, thank you for your comment. He said, it means it's going to be a long, painful season, and Pitt will again get the best of Rich Rod. That was, of course, in response to the Ohio loss. And, you know, that's a totally valid thing to say coming off a loss like that. I'm sure a lot of fans did lose a bit of confidence in this team after that loss.
Yeah, but you could see it on social media.
You know, whatever we posted, anything like that. So but we just told you, Rich Rodriguez is 4-3 against Pitt. Technically, he does have the better of Pitt at this point in his coaching career. Obviously, 2007, you know, I'm just going to ask you straight out. Does 2007 still have any effects on you? We heard Rich Rodriguez answer that question, but for you personally, and we heard our news director, Lacey, she was at that game. She cried. She told us how sad she was. I'm just wondering, the fans out there, never mind Rich Rodriguez, never mind the staff, does that game still affect you? I know a lot of Pitt fans use that game as a kind of nudge, a little needle.
Oh, they always do.
You know, so I'm just wondering, is this still something you think about? And when you're looking into the Backyard Brawl, does that memory still get seared in your mind heading into this game?
For me personally, I'm going to put a little bit of a date on myself here, but I was actually only 5 years old when that game happened.
Yep.
So I actually don't have much recollection of that game at all. I'm sure my family was watching it. I can almost guarantee that. But I was too young to really remember it. Of course, as I grew up into a West Virginia fan and a West Virginia native, you heard about that game from everyone. And to answer the other part of your question here, fans definitely still remember the 2007 game. I've said that before on this show. The Backyard Brawl resonates with every fan in West Virginia. They are, of course, going to remember the 2007 loss because of how crucial it was, being undefeated, number 2 ranked in the country, losing to a Pitt team that was on the fringe of making a bowl game. Just one of the most devastating losses, if not the most devastating loss in program history. So I can almost guarantee that many fans remember that. That sticks out to them. And then you mentioned what Coach Rodriguez said. He said it during his press conference on Tuesday, that's a sore spot for him. He said that's a sore spot when you mentioned that, and he still thinks about it. And I'm sure just like other West Virginia natives and West Virginia fans, just like Coach Rodriguez, they think about it, and it's also a sore spot for them.
Yeah. So in light of, obviously, we showed you the history of the matchup. We told you a little bit about what we heard from Rich Rodriguez and Pat Narduzzi. You know, now it's time for us to make our predictions. And we do this and we kind of sit out in front of you, allowing ourselves to be kind of put in a vulnerable position here because
that's true.
With these, look, I'm a reporter. I'm not coming in here trying to be a fan. I'll just put that out there just like that, all right? So when I give my predictions, and I don't want to filibuster here, I'm going to give my predictions, okay? I just want to say this right now. I'm predicting this based on the facts that we have, what all we know, the injuries heading into the game, and I hate to do this to all the fans out there. I'm sure this is going to get clipped up and memed and whatever the case may be. I invite it. I'm not afraid of any comments. I'm not afraid of anything like that. But to be real, to keep it real on this podcast, on this show, I predict that Pitt is going to beat West Virginia by at least 10 points. I don't want to give a score, but I could see Pitt going to Milan Puskar Stadium and winning this game by 10 points.
Now, we did talk a lot about how my fan bias goes into this, but like you said, I do want to keep it objective. I want to make sure that I'm coming from a reporter standpoint here with the facts and that we have, and I'm going to respectfully disagree. I believe strongly in the home field advantage at Milan Puskar Stadium. It gets talked about by coaches, fans, players that go to the stadium. They all talk about the home field advantage, especially for a game like this in Morgantown. I think that always plays a part in these games. And Morgantown, Milan Puskar Stadium has one of the best home field advantages in the country. When you welcome Pitt to town, it's going to be hostile. So I think that is going to be the edge in this game. And I think it'll be close. It's not going to be a blowout either way, in my opinion. I would predict that I think it's going to be a close win within a touchdown for West Virginia. That's what I'd predict.
And if we could actually just bring up the matchup history one more time. I just want to take a look at it one more time, just get an idea of how many wins. So we see right here, last time in Morgantown, West Virginia won. Last time in Morgantown, West Virginia won before that. And last time before that in Morgantown,
3 straight home games.
3 straight home games were wins for West Virginia.
And that's why I think it plays such a big part in this game.
Yes.
The home field advantage for both teams. I mean, you see the last 2 games in Pittsburgh, Pitt has won both of those games. So I think the home field advantage for both of these teams in this rivalry is huge.
I totally agree with that. That's exactly why I wanted to bring this back on the screen because, like you said, home field advantage, huge part in this game. But for me personally, with all the things working against West Virginia,
yeah, you're right.
I
totally understand that.
I just don't see them. I don't see them winning this game. I could see them keeping it close, being that they're at home, being that they have their fans there. But like I said, I don't see it being a West Virginia win. Would be great if they did. Would be great for the season and Rich Rodriguez and all that. But I don't think that at this point they're going to win that game. But
I certainly understand that opinion.
But we're going to be there, and we will be there on Saturday prior to the action. Plenty of time before the man trip, getting all that. Especially, just want to
make sure you stay tuned on our Facebooks, on air, everything. We'll have everything you need to know about this game.
So we'll have a pregame. We'll probably be getting there very early because we know that the lots are going to be probably as soon as they open them at 7 a.m. or something. They're going to be filled up.
There's going to be Mountaineer fans there that early. They're going to be ready to go.
Yep. So that's the game, and we gave our predictions. Obviously, it's going to be just an amazing experience. Whether or not the game turns out in West Virginia's favor, we all know the Backyard Brawl. We know what's going to be.
It'll bring the energy. You know that.
Like I said, I'm excited for the flyover before the game.
I hope we have one. I really hope so.
That is a big moment. But before the Backyard Brawl, Friday night, we have another week of fifth quarter. Of course,
lots of fifth quarter action.
We have our game of the week over at South Harrison High School as they will take on Ritchie County. We'll have some more games on the screen right here. So we take a look. University at Buchanan Upshur. University 2-0 on the year. Hedgesville at Morgantown. Bridgeport at East Fairmont. Grafton at Lincoln. Elkins at Lewis County. Philip Barber, North Marion. Like I said, the game of the week. Ritchie County at South Harrison, Valley and Clay Battelle, Richwood and Gilmer, and Dodders and Tyler. So looking at it right now, we also see Robert C. Byrd taking on Kaiser, Braxton at Midland Trail, and this is one thing I want to do. We had a great play last week in the fifth quarter. A great play, one of the best plays I've seen in my life. And I want to say this right now, and we'll put some of the matchups up there real quick. I just want to say this. Apologies to Braxton County football. Amazing play that they had. Unfortunately, the jersey of a player was not on the correct player.
Yeah, had a little confusion there.
So if you saw that play of the ball getting batted down back to the quarterback, that was Landon Mays. Shout out to Braxton County. Shout out to Braxton Live, by the way, for all the highlights.
And shout out to Landon Mays.
Yeah.
He actually contacted us to tell us about that play and the correction, so we appreciate him reaching out to us. And we apologize for the mistake there, but great play by Braxton County and great play by Landon Mays.
And look, I respect it. As someone who, we do this, and we have these shows, we have this, I love the comments. Good or bad, whatever you want to say, I want it. Hey, if you give me your best, if you want to take a shot, you give me your best. I promise you, I will read it and probably laugh. Let's go have a look at the matchups for one more time on this fifth quarter Friday for week number 3. We want to let you guys know, once again, want to emphasize, the game of the week is Ritchie County at South Harrison. They had a very good win, a very crafty win, Zach, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, they did.
They won. How'd they win that game against Lincoln again?
Against Lincoln, that was the game that was suspended last week for South Harrison. They actually won on a hard count, 4th and 1, inside Cougars territory. South Harrison went for the hard count and got the Cougars to jump offside, and that was a win for over Lincoln for them. So a solid win. They grinded it from start to finish. That game finished 20-19. South Harrison won was the final score of that one. So good win for the Hawks. They're 2-0. They've had 2 close games against Braxton County and now against Lincoln. So maybe some things that they want to fix there, but still a big start to the season for them.
And one more thing to mention on these scores, are these games I should say, Tigris Valley at Webster County. Last year I was at that game. These 2 programs, if you find yourself in Webster County, you need something to do, this is the game. This is the game. This was also a good option for our game of the week. Unfortunately, we couldn't make it happen, but Webster County and Tigris Valley, 2 programs on the up, improving, getting really good right now with 2 of their coaches.
I love head coach Jay Bennett for Tigers Valley. I talked to him in the preseason. Great dude. He has a mindset to make that program better than they have been, and undeniable that they've done that to start this season so far.
Right. And a lot of our local teams having a great start to their year. A lot of 2-0s, a lot of 1-1s as well. Yeah. Some teams trying to figure stuff out, but week 3, like I just said, I want to keep mentioning it so you guys know and you get it in your brain. South Harrison is a site for our game of the week. They take on Ritchie County. And we have some other good games: Bridgeport at East Fairmont, Grafton at Lincoln,
Elkins at Lewis County. That's an interesting one.
That would be a good one. And then I'm going to be at North Narian, Philip Barber. Where are you going to be at this week?
I'll be at Elkins, Lewis County. So
okay.
Any fans in Lewis County seeing the Minutemen taking on the Tigers there, give me a shout. That would be a fun one. I'm excited to see Elkins, how they'll do this. They're 2-0 starting the year, big wins. 2 blowout wins even for them. Lewis County has struggled. I believe they're 1-1. Or no, they lost to Robert C. Byrd week.
Yeah, they might be 0. They're 0-2.
So they're 0-2. So interesting game there in Lewis County.
Well, should be another great week of high school football. And of course, how could we forget the biggest game of the season where everyone's eyes are should be and where they've probably been since the schedule came out.
Oh, yeah.
So great week of fifth quarter coming up. Great game coming up on Saturday. We'll have all the highlights, all the coverage you need.
Yep.
So check out 5 Sports on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter.
So much good sports going on in North Central West Virginia this week, man.
Wherever you get your highlights, your coverage, make sure it's 5 News, make sure it's 5 Sports. Also, for our radio audience, want to also let you know, like the podcast, comment on Spotify. You can do that. I did figure it out. You can comment on Spotify.
That's cool. I didn't know
you
that.
don't want to go to Facebook and send the comments, you can comment right down there. But that'll do it for this episode of the 5 Sports Show with me and Zach Anderson. We'll have a full breakdown of the Backyard Brawl on Saturday night. So we'll see you there, and we'll also see you on fifth quarter.